welcome to Life, Etc., a show that covers all aspects of life, relationships, and success. And I'm your host, Anna Elton, licensed marriage and family therapist. And today we have a special guest, John Parra. And he is special because he is the artist. He appeared on stamps, subway stations, bestseller lists, and the imagination of children everywhere. Welcome, John.
Hi, thank you for having me, Anna.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm so happy to have you as a guest. I know you're a big celebrity, so thank you for making time to talk to us and share about your art and your books, right?
Yes.
So, but before we start, I just want to get to know you a little bit. And as I said, we talked briefly, but I really want to know you a little bit deeper. So, can you talk about briefly, and again, you don't have to go in details unless you want to. So let's talk about the memory that makes you smile to this day.
Oh, the memory that makes me smile. Well, it's kind of a recent one, actually. It's one of my granddaughter. Once I was working on a book a few books ago, and I was masking things off, getting ready to paint, and she came over and she said, I can help you. I can help you paint. I can help you mix the paints, and I can help you do some of this. So she sat with me and we painted together, and she was so proud. And then when we went to a book festival, she was pointing out the spots of the parts that she painted. And so to me, it felt like this wonderful family collaboration with my granddaughter, and it puts a smile on my face every time.
This is so awesome. So your daughter, how old is she?
She's about 12 now, actually. She lives in Florida, and I actually just did a school presentation at her school, just outside of Tampa.
That's awesome. And when you think of this memory, do you make any connections to your own childhood? Is it something that you shared with your dad or grandfather?
Yes. Yes, because my father was an amateur artist, and he was actually the first person I knew that liked to draw and kind of was a mentor to me. And so anytime we'd stop at a restaurant, and back then restaurants, they used to have these kind of like paper, kind of like tablecloth things, and we would draw, and he would tell stories when he was drawing. And so that inspired me immensely. And so I thought, wow, this is so cool. This is so fantastic. And my mom was a school teacher for more than 35 years, and she loved books. And we would go to the libraries and read books. And it's interesting because in children's books, it's one of the first introductions to kids to art as well in children's books. So between both of my parents, I think I kind of had that happy medium of taking a little bit from each one, and kind of it's no surprise that I turned out to be a children's book author and illustrator.
That's awesome. So it's a perfect combination, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you had no choice but actually follow your parents' footsteps, right?
In a sense, yeah. In a sense, I took their love for those things and just make it kind of my own, and worked at it and sort of developed it. Yeah, but they would be very proud for sure.
Awesome. So let's move to the next one, but we'll come back to your books and art. So how about color? So as an artist, right, is there like a favorite color? Like what is the color that makes you feel at home? Like if you choose one color.
Oh, I always get this from the kids. If I had to pick a color, it would be green. It's just always been my favorite color. I don't know if I'd use it like it's to decorate my house, but just green in general is just a very soothing, sort of peaceful, reminds me of plants and being in nature and the environment. So to me, yeah, green.
I like that. So as I'm looking at the paintings behind you and I see the screen frame, did you?
Yeah, absolutely, green. Well, actually, I love working in complementary colors like green and red, orange and blue. Those types. Those are my two favorite kind of color combos. Thinking as an artist, I love using something to kind of play off each other, and complementary colors work great.
I think I lost you there for a second. Okay,
Oh.
So we're back. I think it's my internet, so no worries. So, but how about, so as an artist, you also became a book author.
Yes.
So how did it start, and also what book inspired you when you were a child?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, my mom would take us to the library, and we would just pick out books and read books. And one of the first books I remember very vividly was a book called The Little House by Virginia Lee Burton. And I remember reading the story. I remember looking at the artwork and just really kind of focusing in on those details, like and sort of going back home and then drawing and trying to copy those drawings. As you got older, I got older. I think books like The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis was a big inspiration for me, because it kind of it sort of inspired my imagination. Other worlds, other types of creatures, and other types of stories, and then you mature and you read other books and they become your favorites. But I'm always a big believer. My mom always said, just be a lifelong learner, always have a book by your bed also, or by your side, something you read for, even if it's just a page or two, before you get ready for bed or whatever it is, and just be a lifelong learner. And so that's always helped me also be creative and think of creative ideas, because in my field I have to work on projects from many different backgrounds, many different stories. A lot of my books are about nonfiction people, and so I have to do a lot of also research, and I love that I get to learn as I'm working on these projects. I think it's the most fantastic thing, or one of the best parts about being getting what I get to do. So that's a big part of it.
So when you think of your favorite project so far, so what do you think was your favorite one?
This is going to be tough, because I'm in a very good place where I get to pick kind of like, I get to be picky with projects. So I get to pick like really good stories from, if I'm working, mostly because I'm an illustrator. So if I get a story that comes my way, I get to really, look at it and examine, do I really want to work on this project? Or I have time to work on this project? I think just, if I had to pick one project, the first author illustrated book I did was called Growing an Artist. And I think it just sort of hits me because it was about my life as a little boy. When I was young, I used to work for my father, who was a landscape contractor. And I worked for him for 12 years, starting about when I was 13, probably even younger, just doing small tasks. But by the time I was 13, that was like my part-time job. And I worked for him, and he talked about landscaping like an artist talks about painting. He talks about, designing the motions, the creativity, the way the flow goes when you look at a house, the designs. And I actually got to work on the landscape designs that with him and me together growing up, and I still have some of those landscape designs. So I decided, this would make a great story, I think. And sure enough, my agent agreed, and we submitted it to the publisher, and they really liked it. And I think, and it also talks about, in the story, it talks about the little boy being an artist, of course. So very autobiographical, but it's about, finding your creativity in life and how you can use that creativity to sort of kind of blossom and sort of find your path forward. And I think it's just interesting. To me, it's this, again, a deeply personal kind of book, but also very meaningful in its own way that's universal, that could be universal to anybody reading that story.
I like that. So you've always been creative, right? Growing up.
Oh, yeah.
And your ways, right, to that creativity.
Yeah, there's actually a very famous picture of me when I do school visits. My very first day of preschool, I was in the newspaper, and it's a picture of me sitting with a friend of mine, a classmate, and we're drawing portraits, self-portraits. So even before I started school, I was always thinking creatively, and I remember thinking like thinking very visually. I wasn't such a good, I was a very introverted kid growing up, not a very social person, I don't think. But in my art, through my drawing, through my, that abilities, I got a lot of confidence because my friends would like it. My teachers saw that I had this kind of like talent. that I worked at. And so again, it really brought me a lot of kind of my voice. And I think it reminds me that, kids learn differently too. Not everybody is a vocal sort of, learner, or, some kids are visual, some kids are more mathematical, some kids are, whatever it is, their talents, it depends. And so when you're thinking about it, early education, early childhood development, that kind of plays a part in all of that. So
So you
I
really
just
need
think
to
it's
find
interesting.
you really
I'm,
need to find you really need to find that talent, right? And really focus on the talent versus just like trying to say like, okay, you need to be this and that, right? You need to fit in. You'll find your own way.
well, yeah, because a lot of people, like, well, so sometimes parents, like, they want their kids to be like a certain way, and we all know it's like parents. It's like kids are sometimes they have their own personalities right off the bat, and it's not exactly what you think they should be. It's who they are, and but I still find that most people have a creative side to them, whether it's writing, whether it's music, whether it's drama, whether it's art, whether it's something. It can be creative, and you can make anything creative too, whatever your job is. You don't have to like necessarily fall into a box and like, okay, every check has to be this way. I think being creative, and being artistic, can be applied to many different things, and just having that a part of your life. You will think better, you will feel better, you will think differently. That's why I always kind of like advocate for art education in schools. It's not to technically to make more artists. It's actually to teach kids to think creatively, to problem solve creatively, so that they're able to solve things. Especially as they get older, and life is whatever life is, and you want to be able to kind of think outside the box sometimes and say, you know what, maybe we can try this, or maybe we can do this, or how about this, or even just a way of expressing themselves. I read an article recently that said that people that live the longest, are also the ones that express themselves the best. And I thought that was interesting. I thought, I think there's something to it. And it's not just vocally, it's not just what you say, but I think it's, or how you maybe talk about yourself. I mean, if you have a creative outlet, and also there's been articles about some of the most successful CEOs or scientists or other people in different fields also attribute having a creative hobby or outlet as part of their success in what they do. And so again, it's an interesting topic to think about, and I just love, to me, art is such a passion and such a fulfilling thing that I'm very lucky and grateful that I get to do it, and I feel it's also a responsibility to pass that on to the next generation, and make sure they kind of get some of those ideas, and just at least start thinking about that.
And as you're speaking, I actually have a couple of directions that I want to take with what I was thinking. But thinking about creativity, right? Like when you're creative, it brings you balance, right? And I feel
Yeah.
like mental health, what I always tell my clients, you need to find that purpose, and then you need to find a way to self-care, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, some people go to the gym, but also like, what is the creative way, right? Is there anything you can do for yourself? And sometimes you can cook creatively, right? You just want to make sure that you find something that you're getting better at every single time, and that brings you that purpose, and also helps with your self-esteem, right?
Yes.
So the next one, right? So what is one of unexpected source of inspiration
Food is a definite unexpected source. I mean it. I really do. It's especially when you're home cooking. My wife is a fantastic cook, and I'm right there. I'm like the prep chef person. Peeling the garlic and chopping the onions and whatnot, getting the ingredients, and she's giving the orders and telling me what to do. But we're enjoying the experience at the same time. It's almost like that's almost just as much fun as just enjoying the meal afterwards, once it's cooked. And there's a little music, salsa music going on in the background, and it's just, you make it fun, you make it interesting, and it's a way to connect, and it's a way to enjoy creatively, so food definitely is something that I think I have really wonderful memories of that. And a lot of my books have food, and in fact the US postage stamps that I did were about Latin food, because I included food in my children's books. That's how the art director found me. So I thought that was really interesting.
This is so cool. Can you tell me a little bit more about the stems? Like, how did you get there? Like, what was it?
um, Well, the art director had seen my published children's books, and he submitted this to the stamp organization committee, I believe, and they had the topic already ready to go. It was Latin food, and we did 6 forever stamps. And so when they do the selections for the year, they usually have a committee that receives about 50,000 suggestions for how to do stamps or what the topic should be, and they have to kind of whittle that down. And a lot of those stamps kind of already come pre topic sort of sets, such as holiday stamps and things like this, or flag stamps and things like that. So there's not a lot to choose from. There's not a lot of leeway to pick brand new subjects to talk about. They did pick the Latin food, and it became the Deliciosos stamps. And originally there were supposed to be five stamps about Latin food, pan Latin American styles from different parts of Latin America. And then so we had the list, and we picked the 5. And then I was kind of like a little kind of sad, because I was like, you know what? There's no dessert in this group of food. Especially, you should have flan in here. This is what we need. We need flan. And the art director's like, yes, I think that's a good idea. Let me get back to you. Let's see if we can make this work. And so the 5 became 6 stamps. And it's funny because the flan stamp was the emails that I got the most about. Like, oh, I only use my flan stamp for my special friends, or it's just such a funny thing. But I got emails from people saying that they use them for their wedding invitations or for their restaurants. And it was and they printed, I think, like 290 million, or I don't know what it was. It was like a huge number. I mean, it's this very large, overwhelming number, and you think your art on all these pieces of art, on all these stamps. And then you go to the ceremony, and my wife and I went to New Mexico for, and they had this big hall, and they had state representatives there, and the TV crew, and I think I was in every newspaper in the country was writing about this, about these stamps. It kind of caught on at the kind of a right moment. And I like, again, that food brings people together. You sit across some people, whatever our differences are, and hopefully you can enjoy time with each other. This is important, in today's day. I just want to make sure that we don't forget that too. We are our people, and we enjoy each other, and we should make time to sit down and enjoy a good meal together, especially for those we love and care about. So
Yeah, and then from food you get your happy hormones, right? It makes you,
yeah, good food too, healthy food.
and I guess food and cooking brings couples together. And that's
Yeah, for sure.
I always say, like, well, you need to find something that you can do together intentionally, especially in this time of cell phones, right?
Yeah.
Telehealth and the Zoom calls.
Yeah, and it's nice, and it's a moment, and it's a special moment that you make. Like, you'll remember the first date you go on, the first place you went to, you took your wife to, your future husband to. Like, those memories will stay with you. Where those kinds of things, and it revolves around food. I always say there's like 6 or 7 things that revolve around some of my most special memories. Food is one of them. Family, friends, traveling, being outdoors, music. Um, it's not a big list, really. And if you combine any of those things on a list, and kind of use them and experience them, I think it's incredible, these memories that you take with you. So
So I guess we're gonna do a little mini test if your wife is watching. So what was the first meal that you shared together as a couple?
let's see, the first meal that we shared together, I'm trying to think, because we're both working at the same place. But I think we went to an Italian restaurant in the New York City called Bona Fides, I believe. I don't think it's there anymore, but it was in the East Village.
Good job.
Oh, no, no, no.
No.
No, it was a Mexican restaurant. Oh, no, no, no. Well, we weren't together then, but that's a different story. Okay, never mind.
Tomatoes, tomatoes, right? But
Yeah.
getting back to the origin story.
Yeah.
So if I call your wife, do you think you passed the test or no? What do you think she would say?
Well, I don't know. We've been together for a long time, like 18 years. So it's she I don't know. I would say it's hard to remember because like it was our first date to go into the Italian restaurant in the city, but it wasn't the first time we sat and had dinner, like or something to eat together because we knew each other before that. So
Okay, so there's a lot of intricate details, right?
yeah.
Okay, another like side test. Do you remember what she was wearing?
Black dress.
Good job. Okay, usually this is the first memory, right? Where the visual and then we remember
Yeah.
what the, okay.
Yeah. Well, it's her favorite color. Like it's New York. I mean, a lot of people wear black.
So let me ask you. So you're the artist. Is there
Yeah.
like another favorite medium that you like to express yourself?
Music. I love music a lot. I used to play in bands. You can see the guitar behind me. I have multiple guitars. I used to play a lot of rock music. We played it. I grew up in Southern California, outside of Los Angeles, and we used to play clubs like the Roxy, the Whiskey A Go Go, all those like famous clubs where the Doors played and famous people played. So it was a lot of fun, and just music in general is a big part of my life. And I like all many different styles of music and different things, and it's fun. It's kind of like the soundtrack to your life. You get to pick those kind of songs that you love, and that also turns into a memory and what you think about, and you remember, oh, this song, I remember we were listening to this song, and when I was doing this or when this was happening, and or part of this part of your life, and yeah, it brings back good memories, or reminds you of your parents, it could remind you of your siblings, all sorts of things,
So you're an artist, you're a musician, right? And you're also an author.
Yeah, well, the musicianship is pretty basic stuff, but the author and the illustrator part, yeah, that's the professional stuff.
So let me ask you, being an author and illustrator, you do both, right?
Yes.
You illustrate your books, you write your books.
Well, not every time. Most of the time, I'm the illustrator, and I think I just finished number 18, my 18th children's book. But out of those 18, I think 3 of them, or I'm working on the third one, I'm authoring and illustrating. Yes.
That's awesome. So from moving from illustrator to illustrator slash author, what pushed you to that change?
My agent. She encouraged me. I mean, that's a good thing about having. What's wonderful about this industry is they're very supportive, very positive. My agent is my friend also, and she's very encouraging. And as a good friend, that's what I always tell the kids when I do school visits. Make sure you make good friends who encourage you to be a good, who appreciate what you do, and also be a good friend to your friends, to encourage bring out the best in them as well. So I have a great agent, Adriana Dominguez, and she encouraged me to write, some stories down. And I think we pitched the 3 ideas. But again, going back to that, this Growing an Artist book, that was my first book that I wrote. And it just sort of poured out of me. And then when I saw the story, I said, I always write more than I need to. And then you kind of whittle everything down to make it smaller. But it just kind of like really kind of came out. And I said, wow, I looked at it and I'm like, it's all the ingredients were there, the storyline, the characters, because it was about me, but I also needed it to be universal, like that people would, I'm not into vanity projects. I want to make sure that this story would resonate with people and people would care about what this story was about, and it would connect. And, especially as a young artist, somebody who loved art from an early age, and also worked for my father, it was kind of a unique experience, and kind of combining those stories and how to feel proud of who you are and where you come from, and just sort of pushing through and finding your voice and making something beautiful and creative. You feel proud, you feel good. It's it's a kind of a simple way to say it, but it's true. And it's a purpose and it's a goal, and I love it. It's just that was the first story I wrote. And then and then more stories. I had the second story already, I think, kind of in my head for a long time as well. But and then the third story, I had to really start from scratch. It was like brand new, but I got there. I got there. I got a good story going.
So, and I feel like writing children's book, it's the people think it's the easiest thing because they say like it's short and everyone can do it, but I feel like it's the most challenging one because you have to really convey the story in how many 600 words, right? Like
Yeah.
it's short, it's concise, but it really needs to be captivating, right?
Yeah, and for me, I like working on projects that are interesting to me as an adult. Like, so you have to balance this. You have to balance these ideas, like what is interesting to kids, but what is also interesting for adults, because often it's the adult or grandparent that is reading to the kids. And so you can't. I don't. I always thought, I don't like dumbing down. I don't like talking down to kids. I like, look, let's elevate the conversation a little bit. I know the kids will kind of grow into it. And I mean, it depends, because some books are definitely for young board books. There's specific types of board books for very young kids, and then there's picture books, and you have an age group there, different types of age groups, and then middle grade YA and all those things. But um, I think just finding, you're kind of working with those parameters, and it's not easy. It's one of the most challenging things I've ever had to do. But again, it's also really fulfilling. It's really exciting, especially when something, you got a little something in your that's really inspiring you, and you're like, okay, what about this? And then it leads you to another idea, and then if you put this idea on top of this idea on top of these ideas, and then there's a sort of there's a sort of template that people do use, that talk when they talk about teaching doing children's books, and you kind of do follow that a little bit to help you get started. But to me, the layers are really important, and thinking about, because when I do a book, I like having, like, at any age you can read the story and you'll get something out of it. A kid will find it interesting, pick the pictures, the story, the colors, but then an adult will look at that and go, oh wow, something, this is something I really like too. And finding it is, it's a challenge, but when you find it, oh, it's just great.
So it's connecting generations, right? This is the special
Yeah.
thing. People can find.
Yeah, because picture books connect generations, because like I said, parents read them to their kids, grandparents read them to their kids, grandchildren, I should say. And it's they're sharing an experience together, and they're sharing stories together, and you're planting the seed in your child or your kids or your students, so they can, again, they're going to be inspired, because it's about them also. It's, like, I have my time here on earth, and once it's done, that's going to be it. But what about the next generation? What about them? We need to get them going and thinking creatively, because they're going to be the next writers and artists and creative people. And and books are a wonderful, wonderful way to kind of reach and kind of plant those seeds and make them inspired in those ways. So
Yeah, and I personally really love books because I feel like this is our way to pause and really turn on our imagination, right? Because I feel like when we
yeah.
see the movie, everything is there, right? Maybe we can pause and think and reflect that makes sense or no, but I think like with books, we have to fill a lot of gaps with our own imagination.
Yeah, and especially when they get older, you're reading like just pure text. It's I was asked kids, during the school visits, are you ever reading a book and you see in the movie inside your head, that's your own vision of how it, because they ask me, how do you do the artwork for the books? And I just tell them, I read the story, the manuscripts, and then pictures start to form into my head. That's creativity. That's the seed that you want. Now they're starting to think creatively and problem solving creatively, and this is what we want.
So, and I guess this is a good time to talk about your new book, and I have it here. Thank you for
Oh,
sending along. It's amazing. And
thank
so It's coming out on July 15th, I believe, right?
July 15th, correct? Yes.
Perfect. So, and if anyone interested to purchase the book, where our viewers can purchase this book?
Well, everywhere books are being sold right now, I think they're doing pre-orders. Obviously, the big ones, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, but also, local bookstores can take orders. Independent bookstores, take a look at those. But they're definitely doing the pre-orders right now. It's available in English, and there's a Spanish available one, and two Spanish available. One a soft cover, which is a little, less pricey, and then like the hardcover version. So you can get either one. So anybody who speaks another language, that's good as well.
Awesome. Well, I would love to hear about the creation of this book. So, what inspired you? Why this book?
Well, the inspiration for this moment is special. It's kind of been, again, with me for a long time. It kind of draws from a collection of just a lot of childhood memories that I have. Again, when I mentioned I was sort of an introvert, but I was always very observant, and certain memories would stay with me, and I had a kind of this quiet awareness of things. And so the mindfulness sort of part of the book, because it's about two things really. It's about mindfulness, and it's also talking about Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead. But the mindfulness part came first, and I was thinking how we always have sort of these special moments in our lives, and what that means, and how we feel. And some of them are happy moments, and some of them could be kind of like challenging moments where we have to get up on stage and talk in front of people, or and that could be intimidating, but it's a moment. It's a moment, and it's not something that it should be something we're to kind of like feel proud of and hang on to. And so all these little moments are happening in the story, and it's all taking place on Dia de Muertos, and I sort of framed it within this context. Because Day of the Dead is a celebration of family members or friends that have passed away, and we're honoring their lives. And I thought it kind of made a lot of a really great strong connection to have mindfulness and special moments and Day of the Dead, because it's like, what is a life? What are we celebrating in life? A life is made up of moments, of special moments. And so I love that these two kind of things combined, just kind of brought out this really and just exciting, creative like thought process when I was working on the book. And I also started thinking about what we have the power to shape our lives, one moment at a time, to remind ourselves that life is not just, we kind of go through the motions sometimes, and we can get stuck in routine very easily, but it's also good to take a break from that. And again, you can make a special moment all the time, and just be mindful of that. And and hopefully at the end, it's like you look back, and it's like you've created this wonderful tapestry of memories and moments. And so that's kind of what the book is about, in a very children's book way. And then at the very end, it kind of talks to the reader directly and asks it, what sort of special memories will you have? What kind of, will you laugh? Will you sing? Will you dance? Will you be inspired? Will you think? So I love that it kind of like it steps away, and then it talks to just directly to the reader at that point, and I don't know. I think it turned out really good, and I'm really excited that this story got made. So, because it's been with me for, again, a long time.
Love that. So it's breaking that fourth wall, right, and really like making readers to connect with the story, right, and take something away from it and make it
Yeah.
for them. And when I think of therapy, right, I always tell my clients, we tend to focus on the goal, right? We focus on the result. We want happiness, but we think that happiness is that final goal, but in reality, it's a journey along the way. And
Correct.
that we tend to forget, we forget to pause and celebrate small successes. Because
Yes.
once we reach the goal, we look at the next one, next one, next one, and we go, 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 go. And this is unfortunately the hustle of our lives, right? But we really need to capture that moment.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a part of the artist journey as well, and every moment, every part of the journey. In fact, when I talk, again, I go back to school visits when I'm telling, students, how do I complete a children's book? It could be overwhelming when you think about the project. You think of all those pages, all the writing, all the art, all the sketching and drawing and characters. It seems overwhelming. And I tell students, I tell young people, or even adults who are studying art and children's books, break it down, cut it up into little pieces. You do one step at a time, one goal at a time, and just accomplish that. And then once you're done for your little thing for the day, then go have fun and enjoy it. But then you'll be amazed, after a week, after 2 weeks, after a month, you'll see all this progress that you made on this project, and that is the journey. And you get used to that journey and you enjoy that journey. There is no destination for me personally. I don't think I'm ever going to retire doing this. This is something I love doing. I mean, I'm lucky in that way, I have to say. And but again, it's because also I am just enjoying those moments along the way. And sure, I want to make sure I hit those goals and hit those deadlines, and that's important stuff, because otherwise my publisher will be like, "Hey, what's going on here?" But it's still a worthwhile trip to make, and I hope you guys get to try and make that a part of your life as well.
So when you were creating this book, and I just want to talk about the process, right?
Okay.
So I know it's a book, it's a beautiful book. I love it. But how long did it take to write the book, to illustrate the book?
Well, when I'm writing the book, it goes through many different drafts. I think I was on 30, 40 drafts, revisions, I think, by the time we finally got the final draft of the writing first. The writing comes first. The story has to come first. And then I start doing research. I start visually getting research together, gathering those things, and then I'll develop characters and think about characters. Sometimes it'll be Easter egg stuff, family members remind me of certain characters, names, and things like that. And then I'll start thumbnailing things out, getting kind of like a flow to the book, because it's almost like you're storyboarding a movie almost. And every page, progresses the story along. Does this move the story forward? And so that's a part of it. And once you work on those things, and then you start really developing the sketches and drawings. I do work on those. And then at that point, after all the drawings are done, I submit that to the publisher. They look it over, make sure everything looks okay. If I'm only the illustrator, the author at that point might look at it and give me some feedback as well. Otherwise, I don't usually speak with the author, and then unless it's me, and then it comes back to me, and they say, change this, fix this, do this. I fix it, and then I start painting. So I paint acrylic paint, illustration on illustration board. So I still work traditionally, but then those paintings will get scanned in and kind of updated a little bit, but not much. And then I turn it in as a final book. So if I'm just doing the illustration works, it's funny because again, the school visit things and the kids asking questions. I always ask, how long do you think it takes me to do his children's books? And they always raise their hand. 1 hour, 1 day, it's like 2 weeks or something like that. It's like, well, it takes just the artwork alone. It takes 6 to 8 months just to do one book. So it does take a while. So again, that's what I'm saying. You have to break it down one goal at a time, one step at a time. Otherwise, it just becomes. And again, don't think about necessarily the end goal. You're just focused on what's in front of you. Do a little bit and then that's it. Just small accomplishments. I'm a big believer in small accomplishments, over a long period of time.
That's awesome. So when you think of creating this book, how many people approximately involved in the creation of the book?
I'm sorry, say it again. I'm sorry.
When you think of creating the book, how many people usually involved in the creation of the book?
If I'm the author and illustrator, it's usually I'll work with an editor at the publisher and an art director. So the writer usually works with an editor, and the illustrator usually works with an art director. And sometimes there's also, the publishing head person might, chime in and say a few things. But those are so it's usually, it could be as many as like 4 or 5, or as little as 3, people, if that's the case. So, but it's fun, and everybody has their own kind of style. Every publisher been lucky enough to work with most of the big publishers out there, and but they're amazing. They're wonderful people. Again, this industry is just so positive and wonderful to work with. And again, and if people are starting out, there are organizations that help people to learn about doing children's books, such as Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, which is SCBWI. They're an excellent organization for people to get involved with if you're thinking about doing children's books. And they're an American Library Association. And it's funny. It's funny because when I first started doing children's books, I kind of fell into it. It was kind of by accident. And it wasn't until the third book I started receiving, awards and acclaim and things like that. And they asked me to Washington, D.C. to receive an award from the American Library Association. And so my wife and we went down to Washington, D.C. And I said, I guess it's just we're going to go to this event and they're going to talk about some award thing. And then I saw all these people just heading to the convention center, because ALA conventions, annually, I think they had 2 every year, twice a year, one in the summer, one in the winter. But the summer one's huge. And I saw all these people going into the convention center. I'm like, wow, look at this. Like, wonder where all these people are going. And then my wife is like elbowing me. It's like, you idiot, they're going where we're going, It's like, and then it hit me. I'm like, oh no, this is bigger than I thought. So we had a good laugh, but it was great. It's just, and then again, you meet people that love children's books and support books, and libraries and teachers and parents, and that see the value in stories, and all kinds of stories that talk about everything, because you want to learn as much about the world and what other people, not just your tiny part of the world, but everything. It's interesting. It's like almost like you're going on a trip. You're taking a voyage. You're seeing, and again, traveling is one of the best, one of my list of favorite things to do. And if you can't travel, to read a book, because that'll get you out the door and out in your imagination, and you'll travel far in a book for sure. So
different worlds, like a Narnia, right?
Any world, like different country, books from everywhere, from every background. I want to celebrate everybody. It's just cool, like, and be friends. I just love that, and because like I'm a person who just wants to invite everybody to the party, kind of a thing. Like, hey, come on over. We're having a barbecue. Like let's enjoy some music and good food. There's the food again, and then it just I don't know, and talk ideas and shop and art and all sorts of interesting topics. To me, it's amazing. Life is amazing. So
I love that. So if anyone's watching and wondering, how do I become an author? How do I become an illustrator? What would be your advice? What would be the first step they should be looking into?
Well, as I mentioned, the SCBWI organization, it's a worldwide organization, and they're wonderful, especially for people that are just getting started. And they have local chapters in every state, and especially, if you're near a city or something like that, they usually have local chapters. So I always recommend, going to these things, kind of, what I always say, get your toolbox ready. When I was an artist in art school, you got to get your toolbox ready, which is you know how to use your craft, how to make it good, because once you're good, it's just a matter of time getting in front of the right person. And so that when you get up to the higher conferences, there are people like art directors from publishing and editors at these conferences sometimes. And they'll take inquiries. People submit their work. I mean, you can also submit directly to the publishers if you're at that moment and you feel like your level is at ready. You can submit to agents. You can submit to the book publishers who accept open submissions, and you just keep plugging along. It just takes time. But there was a famous Steve Martin quote that he said, I love comedy, by the way, too, who said, be so good that they can't ignore you. that's it, really just be so good that they can't ignore you. And I don't mean, when you don't compare yourself to others in a sense, like, oh, I'm not as good as this person, or I'm not as good as that person. No, no, no. You're going to be the best version you're going to be. You can learn from other people. You can be inspired by other people, but you are on your own path in this sort of artistic journey, and you're going to develop something unique and special. And you're going to say something because it comes from the heart and you care about it. And that's what's going to show up in your art and your work and your stories. And when you figure that's a moment in your, like, once you kind of learn the toolbox, and that happened to me, like, there was a very specific moment in my life, in my art career, when I was in art school, and I was learning my tools, and I felt like, okay, I'm getting closer and closer to graduation, but I don't really have a style, or I don't really I mean, I'm trying all these different things, but what do I really like to do? What do I really care about? And then I spoke with another visiting artist that came to my college, art school, and he was this Chicano mural kind of fine artist painter from East Los Angeles. And we had this amazing conversation about talking about culture and family and life, and how he incorporated it into his art. And it was a life-changing conversation. And after that moment, I said, this is what I'm going to start. What do I care about? What do I think? So I started thinking about my family and my background and my culture. And let's have fun, and let's celebrate this, and do it in a fun way. And once I started doing that, it was off to the races. I never looked back. It was, and obviously my skills still continue to develop, but it's all kind of from that moment, forward. It was a great moment in conversation that really kind of made me where I am today. So I thank you, Selma Huerta. Thank you.
That's awesome.
There's many different teachers along the way that have kind of made me where I am today. I don't think we're ever completely self-made. I mean, there's always a teacher, a mentor, a parent, or somebody that comes along and takes an interest in what you do. And I've been grateful to have a few really, really excellent ones in my life, and art teachers and mentors. And that's important. And as I get older, I'm trying to do more of that. I want to be a person also who does that, because it's like that famous quote. It's like, I forget if it's Maya Angelou or my dad used to use it all the time. Don't go through life with a catcher's mitt. You have to throw back. You have to give back. And that's important. It's to get back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a part of what I do.
Oh, awesome. So this is like when you're passing what you got from other people, right? You keep passing on the support, right? That inspiration.
I hope so.
Awesome. So what did we take away from today's conversation? This moment is special, so we need to really focus and celebrate and cherish every moment, right? So we have this picture in our life. We need to celebrate small successes, or sometimes not so small, right? We just need to focus on good and positive. And I think one more that I took away from you is luck, right?
A little bit of luck involved, yeah.
When preparation meets opportunity, right? So you need to be
exactly. And preparedness means opportunity.
Maybe you'll like it, maybe you're like, maybe not. But regardless of the outcome, you keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's for sure. And there was a moment when I decided to be an artist. I'll kind of back up. When I was in junior college, I was taking art classes, and I didn't know I was going to be an artist. And then a visiting artist came to my school, and I knew his work, and it blew my mind. And I absolutely, and this person, Larry Carroll, became my mentor. And but I remember when he asked me, and I didn't have a lot of money back then. He wanted me to go to art school. And I remember thinking, because I had no frame of reference. How do you be an artist? I'm a very level-headed person, I think. And the thought of being an artist seemed so eccentric. But he talked about it in such a kind of a very normal way in a sense. But I remember when he asked me about getting a portfolio ready to get a scholarship to go to art school, I remember thinking to myself, this isn't just about going to art school. This is the path I was going to take for the rest of my life. And I was making that decision right there in his living room. I'll never forget. And that I would continue to this day. And so, yeah, again, it goes back to, paying it forward and thinking about those moments and everything in between. And it's been a blessing and a wonderful journey.
Because when you think about everything, it just start making sense.
Yeah.
So once again, I want to show this book. It's amazing. It's coming out on July 15th. And John, where can we find you? Where can we find this book?
Well, definitely you can go to all the major outlets and retail stores. If they don't have it in stock, just, make sure to order it. But, all the big guys carry it. If you go to johnparraart.com, my website, there's always connections and links and lists of things. But also going to be at ALA in Philadelphia, which is American Library Association Conference this year. Doing book signings. I'll be in New York doing book signings at Books of Magic in Brooklyn on I think the 19th, which is a Sunday, and among other places as well. So there is, it's all listed on the website, johnparraart.com, and hopefully I'll see you there. And yeah, so should be good.
Well, thank you. It was amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. I love your book. Once again, this moment is special, John Parra. Thank you for being here with us, and I just want to appreciate all our viewers for watching, tuning in, and stay for more. I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you.
If they act out, yeah, I did that. Hey, what's up, though?
Well, it's your gal Yaya, and you're here on Yaya's channel. Just kidding. We are here with a great debut. Take it over, I guess.
I mean, it's not about taking it over. She's new to it. She doesn't know how we do it. You know what it is. All right, you started off again, and I'm gonna keep cool and interrupt. It's your man Jay Wu out here in the tropical paradise, and they say you don't bring sand to the beach, but alongside me I have the beautiful co-host Yaya.
Yaya in the building, and we have amazing news for you.
We're outside, not in the building, and the sand is out here on the beach. We're here to talk about who got next hour on Jess TV.
Hey, and I know it is at what, Tuesday.
I guess.
You know, wait. Let me do that. And I know it is at every Tuesday. 10 o'clock.
10
Okay.
o'clock. Oh wow, yes. You can catch Demasha with the Zip Mouth Motivation Show. You can catch Jay Cabrera with Indie Vibing with Jay. You can catch Yaya with Reggae with Yaya
all the time.
And we can't forget who got next Indie Artist video show. So stay tuned every Tuesday night, 10 p.m. right here on Jess TV.
Yes, it's your man
and your girl.
and your gal.
That's right.
All right.
Peace. That's fantastic fun.
Let's have some fun.
Yes.
All
right.
Black out if they act out. Yeah, I did that. Hey, what's up, though?